Wake me up. Dreaming after you. Loving you is my problem. I'm singing to your tune, hoping that you can follow the sound waves. Cause I'm already pouring my heart and soul into you. Wish you well. And I would never go the lengths that I've gone for you for anyone else. Wake me up, wake me up.
Nights like these are therapy. I feel my sorrows fading, fading away. I close my eyes to see the light that's shining deep inside me. I just can't sleep, get lost in these moments. Can't press repeat, gotta freeze it and hold it. I'm in too deep, as deep as the ocean. No, I just can't sleep, cause I'm lost in these moments. Lost in these moments. Lost in these moments. Lost in these
We're not on Untamed yet. Oh, we are. David, how you doing, brother?
I'm here, man.
We got a new set, so we decided we would try out the set. We're like, why would we not have that set? It's kind of a cool set.
That's not the real reason I'm here, though.
You're not the real reason you're here.
I've been gone a while.
You've been gone a
and
while.
there was a precipitous decline in female viewership. So Joe asked me to come back. And from time to time, Apollo might zoom in on my kneecap. It's a very, very fine form. But it's good to be here. There's a lot of very good news that just dropped minutes before we got on. But yeah, it's good to see you. There it is.
Yeah.
Yep, it's real. That's real.
Kneecap.
That's real, ladies.
Well, we had Wano Saban on. So we had his shoes. Actually, we had the Trump Tower. And now we have your knee and my shoes that everyone is going to talk about forever. My Under Armours. And you're drinking your coffee.
Well, it's not my coffee.
It's
Joe
Bro's coffee?
Joe is a big, he likes the commie brands.
I don't know why.
So
this is Bro's coffee. See,
so
Bro's coffee.
I'm not about it.
It's censored coffee. All right. So yesterday we had the guy, Jeffrey Goldberg. He's a notorious plagiarizer from the Atlantic. He published an article, David, And an article claiming he was mysteriously added to a Signal group chat. The chat allegedly contained messages about plans to launch an airstrike against the Houthi militants in Yemen on the 13th. It's kind of put a pretty big firestorm around the handling of classified information. I guess it wasn't as important as classified information in Biden's garage or stuffed in his Corvette or I don't even know. I look at it and I go, this is just crazy. But anyway, we're going to, it's much to do about nothing. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And then later we're going to have Ann Vandersteel on the show. She's going to dive into the judicial corruption and the coups that we've been facing over the last 4 years. And you've got some information for us. And then we're going to talk about what's happening with President Trump specifically and some of the things that he's doing that he just did, including a pardon. So all this and more on today's episode of Untamed. Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people. Oh, hot dog, look at you. And nobody talked about what's really happening. And let's have conversations about what truth is. God, it feels good to be back. It feels good to have David. It feels good to have you back on. It's like Wonder Twin Powers activate. Came into town just to visit with me. First he came to Texas. That was awesome. I think I'm the only one to be by St. Joseph, though.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. He's back there. He's literally paying brick makers to put his name on a brick
200 years ago, and then they just came forward.
That was cool. No, that was pretty cool.
It was. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I want to start with this. I'm going to take you back in time. Can I take you back in time?
Yeah.
So this is a thread by Emerald Robinson on election integrity. So let's go ahead and, if we can, go to this first cut. Super awesome. So let me kind of go through this. Can you push aside the rundown, please? Can't really see it, so I can read it. Okay, maybe not. There we go. It's time to explain exactly what happened on Election Day 2024 to stop the steal. This will be a very long thread. It involves quite a few people over 4 years, a dozen sources. We must begin just after the rigged 2020 election. Let's begin the story of December 2020. Why? Because President Trump wanted election fraud investigated. He told his team to hire someone to discover the truth about the voting machines. Multiple sources tell me an ex-CIA investigator was hired for the job. That investigator reported that claims of election fraud were overblown. Who was that person?
Are we talking about Bill Barr?
I think it's Chuck Faddis. The investigator reported that claimed the election fraud was overblown. Some DOJ lawyers also wanted election fraud investigated. Those efforts were blocked by AG Bill Barr's staff, including Barr's
Chief of Staff?
Chief of Staff, yeah.
Will
Levi, yeah. Levi threatened to quit if the cases were launched. This is unbelievable. Also in December of 2020, a group of NatSec analysts briefed the White House that enough evidence of election fraud exists to launch a full USG investigation. In January 2021, several GOP senators were briefed as well. Neither the White House nor the senators authorized the investigation. A few people tried to alert President Trump about the NatSec analyst briefing and the need for a full investigation in late 2020, but those efforts were blocked by White House counsel Pat Cipollone, according to two sources. Cipollone joined Bill Barr's law firm on January 17, 2024. Oh, that's interesting. Chris Krebs, the head of a small agency called CISA, which is inside DHS, sent out a press release in late 2020 claiming that the 2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history. Krebs was not a cybersecurity expert. He's actually a lawyer. Figure that. Who hired him? The head of DHS, Chad Wolf. Krebs was hired because he was Chad Wolf's close friend. He worked at CISA coordinating with the left-wing orgs like Democracy Works, to prepare for the 2020 election. Trump fired Krebs a week after he dismissed Defense Secretary Mark Esper. Trump removed Esper, Chris Miller, and Ezra Cohen were rushed into the Pentagon on November 11th because Esper stopped responding to the White House. Think about that. Stopped responding to President Trump. Now, on November 18th, Miller put all special forces under his direct command. When I was deposed by Dominion lawyers in 2024, I was asked specifically about this tweet from November 10th, 2020, because it was, as I was told, the first mention of social media of a link between Smartmatic and Dominion. It's an important point. You know, they stayed away from Eric Coomer and all this, just so you know. All crooked roads lead to Dominion voting systems. Well, this is interesting. All crooked roads lead to Dominion voting systems. On November 11, 2020, I noted on Twitter that Mark Malek Brown, the best friend of global villain George Soros, was listed on the board of directors for Smartmatic. This was a November 11th tweet. Dominion voting system leads you to Smartmatic, which leads you to Mark Malek Brown. Who is he? He's the best friend of George Soros. No, I'm not kidding. By November 12th, 2020, any mention of Mark Malek Brown and his leading role with Smartmatic have been wiped from the company's website. You know who else got wiped from the website?
Coomer.
Everything related to Eric Coomer. Everything. All right, keep going. Let's this news is not available anymore. It just goes through news about Mark Malek Brown. This was a systematic wiping of all information. On November 19th, 2020, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell held a press conference at RNC headquarters. I remember this day very well because this is the day that they were said that there was a recording of Eric Coomer, and that was never the case. Powell, although I have had people tell me that they have heard recordings of it over the internet. Nothing would surprise me if the thing disappears. Powell claimed that Dominion brand machines were using Smartmatic software. She also claimed Smartmatic software was developed in Venezuela for dictator Hugo Chavez. By mid-November, public networks scanned Dominion made by military intel analysts were available through legal briefings in Michigan. What these documents revealed about America's election system was damning. Just go through this. Exhibit 105 of the Michigan filing, the declaration of military intel analysts from the 305th who mapped the network of Dominion voting systems and Edison Research. Countries, groups involved in the U.S. election 2020 access manipulation. Belgrade, Serbia. Iran, China, Canada, HSBC Bank in Canada, BMA Capital Management, DVS Corp, Chinese Domain, Invisible Form, formerly Acorn. December 18th, Trump met with Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, and Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne at the White House. They urged Trump to launch an investigation of the voting machines. White House staffer Pat Cipollone, Eric Hirschman, and Derek Loins all argued against doing it. December 18th was also the due date for DNI Ratcliffe to submit a report to President Trump on foreign interference in the 2020 election. Ratcliffe missed the deadline. 3 days until the report is due by DNI Ratcliffe to POTUS on foreign interference in the 2020 election. That was on December 15th, 2020. Ratcliffe did not release his report until January 7th, 2021. Note the date of the release was after January 6th. His report stated the CIA management actively suppressed intel that China interfered in the 2020 election. That's right. The CIA was hiding China's role in the 2020 election. Treason. Ratcliffe confirmed that China interfered in the 2020 election and the CIA had tried to hide the fact, but the info arrived too late to help President Trump. Here's the link to the letter. On January 6th, almost 100 House Republicans, more than 12 GOP senators were ready to object to election results in Congress. Only an emergency could override and halt the day's session. When an emergency happens, special rules apply in Congress. Less than 10 minutes before 2 Rep called for a vote motion to suspend the election certification, Capitol Police claimed that a protest outside might breach the chambers. So this, by the way, this gives you rise to what really happened in 2021. Key leaders were escorted out, Speaker Pelosi, and halted Congress using emergency rules. January 6th was staged. Tier 1 operators and FBI agents present that day in the crowd. In other words, this is a full-on intelligence coup. The shell used to signal the start of the battle. After January 6th, the FBI, Tier 1 operators, First Amendment saw a red Starlight shell fired over the Capitol just before fake insurrection began. Totally forgot about that. Did you remember that?
Yep.
After January 6th, the FBI WFO emailed all employees that if they were on the mall, they were required to give a statement. Some agents didn't volunteer, were identified by others. They were required to give statements against their will. Those FD 302s are still secret. The DOJ's OIG later found the FBI had at least 26 confidential human sources, who were present at the Capitol on January 6th. None of the CHSs were ever prosecuted. January 7, 2021, President Trump was banned from Twitter. On the 8th, Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, and Patrick Byrne were banned from Twitter. The coup was complete. The era of government censorship began. On January 8th, Dominion filed a defamation suit against Sidney Powell for $1.3 billion in damages. January 25th, Dominion filed a similar lawsuit against Giuliani. Suits against Fox, OEN, Newsmax, and others followed. Dominion's lawyers are Sussman Godfrey, LLP. You know, I want to go through all of this. I could probably spend an entire show doing it. I'm not going to. I'm going to put it up on the site, make sure it puts up on all the socials, if you will, on every platform. You know, I almost had PTSD going through that with you, David. Just that one part. Now, he says all roads lead back to Dominion. The head of security and strategy and security for Dominion voting system is a guy named Eric Coomer. It was a report that I did on November 9th, before anyone was talking about any of it, is that Monday. And the information that I was able to get on Friday, on the 6th, before the election had ever been called, that led me down a path where I spent quite a bit of time digging into this guy, Eric Coomer. And he'd say that all things lead back to Dominion. I don't think anything truer could be said other than that. And yet, these people have acted with impunity for the last 4 years. And they continue to gaslight the American people. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm not mad, though.
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe a little salty. So the reason why I bring that up is that today, President Trump signed an executive order for election integrity. And let me tell you what it includes. It requires documentary government-issued proof of U.S. citizenship on its voter registration forms. Conditions federal elections-related funds on state complying with the integrity measures set forth by federal law. Directs the updating of the voluntary voting system guidelines and security standards for voting equipment, which includes requiring a voter verifiable paper ballot record and not using ballots by which the counted vote is contained with a barcode or QR code.
Let's pause right there.
Right?
Because if they update the VVSGs and they're just trying to make sure that people are complying with the standards that are there, they can't comply with the standards. If they actually read the standards, if they really read FSMA, I'm talking about the National Critical Infrastructure, you got to read between the lines here. And in his debrief today, he seemed to indicate this isn't the only executive order, that there's more coming. Do you have a copy of the clip? Because we can read this off here, because I think the gentleman that's become famous for telling everyone about the executive orders. Do we have that, Apollo? Yeah, well, he's signing it right here, and he explains it. Let's put on the volume.
Yeah, let's play it.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it wasn't number two. It wasn't this video. Clip 2. Cut 2. Oops. All right. Give your thoughts, David, on this.
Well, you and I are probably a little bit more, I mean, we want to celebrate, but we're all, we've been fighting against the dominions of the world for so long that but nothing short of complete destruction of these treasonous entities will do. So, we're looking at this and we're sitting there, what does it miss? I think that's the way we come at this. The executive order also directs the Attorney General to enter into information sharing agreements with state election officials to identify cases of election fraud or other election law violations. There's 2 more items here, and we'll watch the video. Takes appropriate action against states that counts ballots received after Election Day in federal elections. And it revokes Biden's Executive Order 14019, which turned federal agencies into Democratic voter turnout centers. Let's give it a watch.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order for your attention on the very important subject of election integrity. We believe that this executive order is the farthest reaching executive action taken in the history of the Republic to secure our elections. Among numerous other aspects of this executive order, this is going to cut down on illegal immigrants on the voter rolls, ensure that the Department of Homeland Security and the data that they have available is being fully weaponized to ensure that illegal immigrants aren't voting. This will include a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. This executive order instructs the EAC to cut federal funding to states that don't take reasonable steps to secure their election. This calls on the Department of Justice to vigorously prosecute election crimes, particularly in states that we don't believe are in compliance with federal law around election integrity. I could go on for a while, sir, but the compliance with national election day rules, cracking down and investigating and prosecuting foreign interference in our elections, revoking President Biden's Executive Order 14019, which essentially weaponized government to corrupt and pollute our election process. There's a lot in here, but we believe that these are very important steps that we need to be taking as an administration at your direction to ensure that our elections are as secure as they possibly can be.
Okay, you all understand that? Yes. Election fraud, you've heard the term. We'll end it, hopefully. At least this will go a long way toward ending it. There are other steps that we will be taking in the coming weeks, and we think we'll be able to end up getting fair elections. Perhaps some people think I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide, but we got to straighten out our election. This country is so sick because of the election, the fake elections and the bad elections, and we're going to straighten it out one way or the other. And it's an honor to sign this one. To sign all of them, but to sign this one is a great honor.
He gets it.
You know, he not only gets it. Here's the thing that I want to push to specifically is that he said we won in a landslide. So he has to recognize that the will of the people was different than the bots and the people who are paid agitators and the people that are paid to create a false sense of reality, right? He knows that it's different than that. He knows that they were stealing down ballots, and it could have been, we could have gotten to 65 Democrat or Republican senators. We could have gotten to 3/4 of the House. We could have done some damage had they not been stealing down ballots. But what's important about what he said in this executive order is that it allows him to go backwards. He can go back to 2020. He can go back to 2020 and prosecute the people that are responsible for stealing the elections in 2020. He can go after the John Paulises. He can go after and he's directing them to go after the people that have stolen the voice of the people. And the last 4 years has been incredibly difficult for a lot of people as a result.
Well, I'm reminded of that epic cease and desist order that he put out on Truth while he was on the campaign trail. And all I can say is that you and I both have independently heard from sources, some reliable, some questionable, but they all seem to be pointing to this idea that, when you look at Trump sitting there, he knows he's calm, he's collected, and there has to be prosecutions. And so I want to differentiate between hopium and why there has to be prosecutions. Because if there's not enforcement prior to the midterm, he knows that his entire administration is going to be rewound. And the dominions of the world are going to come back with a vengeance.
Yeah.
So this comes down to just continually bringing out and unrolling and exerting pressure. Because there's a lot of states out there, come hell or high water, they've become absolutely addicted to the convenience that these election systems have to offer. They don't know how to run elections without the dominions. And so there's been a pervasive handicap that's been created by design to where these folks love getting their paycheck. They love getting that easy paycheck, and they could care less about getting it right. And so the pressure starts now. I'm glad that this came out in late March because we've talked with a lot of experts. You need at least a full year of roadway to start making sure that the mechanics of running an election can conform to what he's starting to unpack right now.
You know, I wrote that bluff and basically said that you had to do it in the first 90 days. So, I mean, I think that there's a large part of what we've been able to do collectively. I know there's some stuff you can't talk about that you're working on yourself, but that he's listening to, I think, good advice, good information, well documented information about what has to happen next and how he gets to the bottom of the election fraud. You know, if you look at the problems and symptoms of the problems, you know, even if you go back to his first term, you know, they sabotaged those 4 years. I mean, you could argue that he could have gotten much more done in those 4 years. And I'm actually glad he took 4 years off because he was able to, in his mind, go through all the processes that they needed to look at. Like he knew to go into USAID. It wasn't a mistake he went in there first. He knew, which means he was being briefed on things that directly gave him knowledge to say, look, if you're going to dismantle it, you have to dismantle the CIA's hub. And then move around to the other hubs and start dismantling them. But it's not, you know, David, the last 4 years, you know, I don't regret it. But you have to look at it from, I think we got through November by the grace of God. I think God delivered us. But there's a lot of things that they did to us over 4 years.
They did.
I mean, they did a lot of bad things.
Well, I mean, look, my instinct on November tells me what I've hinted at for years, that there's more than meets the eye with Trump. And certain things had to happen. Number one, you couldn't see that F curve materialize in Pennsylvania, Georgia, and those swing states, and it didn't, which means there had to have been an intervention at some level to keep the bad guys from doing that digital injection that they did in 2020. Didn't happen. Second thing is they had to slow down the fake fraudulent mail-in ballots that typically would follow the F curve. And it seemed like there was reliable intelligence, especially in Pennsylvania, that vans full of how many tens of thousands of mail-in ballots were turned away. There were cease and desist operations on the West Coast to the postal services. Don't you dare take in the mail-in ballots. Now, it's not to say that they did it perfectly everywhere, because we know that they didn't. We know that the should have been Senator Sam Brown was robbed of a race. We know that Kerry Lake was robbed of a race. We know that at least 20 House seats in California that were in the Republican column went to the Democrats. And so what you saw here was kind of, you want to talk about a miracle. No one's questioning the legitimacy of Trump's victory, which is great because you need to have that. Yet anyone that knows this space and knows it well knows that we did not fix the election rigging problem, because we should have had a supermajority in the Senate. He should have been so ironclad right now with the Senate and the House. And so if you're going to have the proper balancing of making sure that the commander-in-chief gets in, but pushing back on all of the psyops out there that somehow this means our elections were fixed, it was a perfect calibration.
Yeah. And Yeah, as you're sitting here talking, I keep going through in my head the same thing that I wrote in that post that you said, Joe, you're going to get in trouble for some of the things you say. I was like, look, I'm just being honest. This is what's in my brain.
Yeah.
But I want people to be held accountable. I don't think I think that people, in order to get to where we need to get to on the elections, you're going to have to arrest 500 people. And of the 500, about 100 of them are going to sing like birds. Right?
Yeah. Well, people need to know. Look, I love Joe being Joe. That's why I'm his friend. And that's why I've been on this ride for years. But I also have to put on a legal counselor hat. And I feel split down the soul because, before I put on that hat, I could cheer you on. I could say, just go, throw some gasoline on the fire. It's a little bit different for me now because I'm looking after Joe's legal interests to the best that I can. And all I can do is give him advice, full well knowing that Joe is going to do what Joe does, which is, yeah, he's a piece of trash. And so if I can just take my lawyer brain out of it.
Yeah, I'm going to call people what they are. I'm not, look, I survived it.
Mm-hmm.
I was poisoned. They come to my house. We talked about this. The things they did to your wife, bro, man, people don't even know. The voicemails of that I'm going to show up and shoot you in the face and all the stuff that, I'm going to tell you right now, it's your wife. And I wanted to go beat that guy with his own arms.
Yeah. But, the Lord has given us a sound mind and self-control. And so at least one of us.
Come on, bro. That's not even, bro. We're yin to the yang. Can I
fire and ice?
Yeah, fire and ice. Because there are plenty of times that I was like, what'd you just do?
But you have to, but you have to keep your composure throughout all this. And it is a miracle that we're still sitting here. And look, today's a good day. Today is further vindication because what you're not going to see are a bunch of news outlets talking about what we're talking about today. They don't want to talk about this executive order. And to the degree that they can undermine it and still have embedded people throughout CISA, DHS to undercut what needs to be done, they're going to do that. But what's wonderful is that Trump has not lost his focus because there's always part of the back of my mind sitting there going, if he gets in and if this is all about Trump, he could easily just drop the ball. And he's not doing that. I love the extra commentary that of all the executive orders. They're all important, but this one is really important. And so it's a great day.
It absolutely is. So Jeff on the comments does not like our orange chairs. He said the 70s called. They want the chairs back. We're not giving the chairs back. These are awesome chairs. I don't know what you're talking about. And Ken Sherry says, that flamethrower might come in useful, Joe. Don't threaten me with a good time.
Oh, my goodness. I actually love these chairs. So that tells you something about I'm like, finally, something that's stylish.
And I'm not cutting my hair. I'm going to let my hair grow out just so I can pull a David Clements. I'm going to grow it out.
We're rooting for a late 1980s lethal weapon mullet. At least I am. I want that Riggs look for Joe. He can pull it off.
Yeah. Yeah. Nonstop Sherry, love you too. Okay, so he didn't just sign off on that executive order. He also signed off on another executive order that orders that the FBI files in the Crossfire Hurricane, aka the Russian hoax, that those all be declassified.
There's your arrest right there. That started it all before 2020.
It absolutely did. Let's go ahead and bring up cut 3.
Next, sir, we have a presidential memorandum for your attention. This memorandum requires the immediate declassification of all FBI files relating to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. This was obviously one of the instances of the weaponization of law enforcement powers of prosecution against you and others. We believe that it's long past time for the American people to have a full and complete understanding of what exactly is in those files.
Which gives the media the right to go in and check it. You probably won't bother because you're not going to like what you see. But this was total weaponization. It's a disgrace. Should never happen in this country. But now you'll be able to see for yourselves, all declassified. Is that correct? Would
Yes,
you
sir.
say? All declassified?
Yes, sir.
Everything?
The FBI file with there's a classified annex, but other than that, this we'll put everything in the public eye.
Is anybody going to look? How about you? You going to look? And frankly, the FBI should be ashamed of themselves, and so should the Department of Justice, and so should Biden.
Love it.
So should Biden. I mean, he just had the last bit on the Biden deal.
Yeah. No, this was great. And then there was another one. I don't think we put it in the notes, but just there was a pardon. There was a pardon.
This is the best. This is the best pardon ever.
This was the guy that was basically exposing the Biden family, right? Let me see if I can find it. But this was breaking today. I'm going to pull it up here in just a second. What's his name?
Devin Archer.
Yep, Devin Archer.
This is kind of a big deal. I'm not sure everyone understands the concept behind or the context behind this. Devin Archer with Tony Bobulinski are two guys that came forward with information related to the fraud of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. Now, both of them were treated much like the suspendables were treated, like Kyle Seraphin, Garrett O'Boyle, Steve Friend. I mean, super, super great guys that came forward. And they saw what they were doing with Hunter as just wrong. And one of the things that Devin Archer said on TV, he goes, listen, the brand that we were selling, the thing that we were selling was Joe Biden. That's what we were selling. We were selling the family name. And then he got hung out to dry.
Yeah.
They were going after Hunter Biden, but they wanted to go after Devin Archer. And so President Trump issued a pardon for Devin Archer today, which I think was well-deserved. Hung out to dry by the Bidens.
Are there more people that maybe we just forgotten about? I mean, I was so hyper-focused on J6, but are there any other names that have to be checked off the list? I know that Trump made a promise to the Libertarian Party. I forget his name. Ross, I forget the name, but he was in prison for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And Ulbricht, yeah.
Ulbricht, yeah.
But there's still questions over Julian Assange. Has he been pardoned?
No.
Edward Snowden?
No.
So there's more, right?
And there's some unknown people that I think we really should pardon, because during you could almost argue, actually you could argue that what happened with the vaccines and people losing their jobs, there was people out there that were creating fake vaccine cards and helping people get past that, so they didn't inject this poison into their body, and those people were prosecuted by the DOJ. I have a friend of mine that was prosecuted. He would pass out, vaccine cards so they could get out of not having to, not have to take the vaccines. And he served, I think, a year, 7 months or 8 months of a sentence in prison. Mm. So there's a lot of unsung heroes that need to be pardoned, along with the Snowdens and the people that have really, uncovered some of the fraud that we have in our country. But everything seems to center around the Central Intelligence Agency and sub-agencies that are just hidden in this kind of dark web.
Yeah, I want a pardon. I want one of those Hunter Biden 10-year.
Yeah, but what do you need a pardon for? You didn't do anything wrong.
Just to frame it. I don't have like a profession anymore, Joe. I mean, it's, just to have that 10-year window.
We're doing some pretty crazy stuff.
I know, but,
right?
Been a little facetious.
Part of and I look at the lawsuit that I'm in with Eric Coomer. One, Dominion Voting Systems did not sue me. You want to know why?
I do. I want to know why. Tell the people.
because I'm not a guy. I would have literally done the same thing I did to Coomer. You sue people in order. You don't cut the tongue out of the person that's telling the truth or lying. You cut the tongue out of the person that's telling the truth. You don't wipe the entire internet of everything Eric Coomer because you're doing the right things. You don't delete all your social platforms. Put up an op-ed that says that everything was made up and that, it's all fabricated. You don't lie over and over and over again, and then walk into a court and have a sitting governor put a new judge on the bench only to do a sua sponte deal of bringing in what's already been ink dry ruled on. You don't do all of that unless you're hiding a lot of shit. Yeah, and I think Dominion was like, yeah, we sue Altman, he's just going to go. He's going to go sideways on everyone.
Well, I can't tell you, but I can. Joe has driven their legal team crazy. I mean, they are, just foaming at the mouth. They get mad that, he's thus far escaped a jail cell. Praise God. And we're going to try to keep it that way. But I was running ideas by Joe for fundraising. Perhaps we can get a nice picture of Eric in the back of that police car after he lied to the police.
You put it right up here, right beside me.
And maybe just see if there's any interest. So leave it in the comments if perhaps we should get into screen printing and just have an entire Coomer line of merch. Now, men, you're not going to impress any women. You'll repel people.
You might repel.
You might invite the opposite
Mosquitoes
sex.
won't even bite you.
But, it's for a good cause.
The devil might actually like you, but that's about it.
Yeah. But there is some other big news. Now, you opened the show talking about what happened just a few days ago, which was that the Atlantic had their disgraced and notorious plagiarizer, Jeffrey Goldberg. He was somehow added to a signal group chat which contained messages relating to plans to launch airstrikes against Houthi militants in Yemen. Can someone accidentally be added to Signal? You're the tech guy.
No.
Or there are a few steps that you might have to follow.
There's a few steps. There's a few steps that would show up. And you would know when you're adding it. And that this is the part that drives me a little bit nuts. First of all, why would anybody in the Trump administration have a radical leftist journalist on speed dial? And I said this, I put this up a post. I was like, look, if this is true and this person added him to the chat, and you can tell, I mean, you can go through and tell who added who, then that person should be immediately fired because you don't accidentally do it. There's no accidentally. You have to go through a step or two in order to add someone to a chat. And you would not add somebody and be like, oh, I think this Goldberg guy might be on the team for the Trump admin. I mean, I think it might be happening. No.
Well, the other thing that was odd was just how quickly your usual suspects brought it up. It's as if they were just ready to be tipped off. Hillary Clinton put out her post, with the big eyes. And now all of a sudden they're big on national security.
Yeah.
All the Democrats. Mayor Buttplug. Who else?
Mayor Buttplug.
Oh,
Booty juice.
Booty juice.
Mr. Booty Juice. I got my bro's coffee.
Yeah. Well, there's an article we put up, and then Pete Hegseth seemed like there was not as much ado about nothing. So let's go ahead and play the Hegseth cut.
Classified.
You're talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. This is what he does. I would love to comment on the Houthi campaign because of the skill and courage of our troops. I've monitored it very closely from the beginning. And you see, we've been managing 4 years of deferred maintenance under the Trump administration. Our troops, our sailors were getting shot at as targets. Our ships couldn't sail through. And when they did shoot back, it was purely defensively or at shacks in Yemen. President Trump said, no more. we will reestablish deterrence, we will open freedom of navigation, and we will ultimately decimate the Houthis, which is exactly what we're doing as we speak from the beginning, overwhelmingly.
Why were those details?
You know, I find the most interesting part about that is that now we have to question whether or not it even exists, whether or not he was added. Did he add himself? Is there a way that he got access to that information through, unclassified channels? I think Pete Hegseth is just saying it's a bunch of nonsense. These aren't credible people, and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And these non-credible people just walk around. There's sycophants, right? They're sycophants. They literally just suck off of the American people and create stories that just aren't true.
Yeah.
We're joined by someone.
But we do have our guest on the line, Ann Vandersteel, who has been covering all of the stuff that we've been covering for 4 years and then some. So let's welcome Ann to Untamed.
Ann!
Wow. Sorry I'm late, guys. You
That's
get
all
on
right.
the phone with certain people and it just, time evaporates. My apologies. Sincerely, I apologize. It's good to see you.
It's good
Both
to
of
see you.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Speaking of Untamed, this hair is getting a little untamed. We're having terrible cloud seeding bad weather down here right now.
Oh, your hair looks great. Don't ever.
Hey,
That was a shameless request for help.
so you're headed to, I talked to you a few days ago and you were going to head to Panama. You might have to go back down to Panama. Is that still happening? Am I allowed to talk
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, of course you are. Yeah,
All right.
no worries.
I was like, wait a minute.
No
I should've-
classified information on my Signal chat. Anyway, I actually just got off the back and forth on Signal, believe it or not, with Michael Young. We were talking. I was going to try and squeeze in a trip this week, but because I've got to head out of town on Thursday, and then it's just too many things. I've got too much travel between now and the 7th of April, but I think I'm going to head down right after April 7th because things are really starting to heat up. You've got the Sun Tracks, which is basically the UN's Soros NGO funded crowd of rebel rousers that are just basically pay dial-a riot agitators that are upset about, Trump stepping in and saying we're going to take the canal back because China stepped out of line. But you still got problems with immigration going on down there, down in the Darien camps, the Darien Gap camps that we've been reporting on for several years. You've still got movement. You've still got build outs going on. So you have to ask yourself, what in the world are they really doing with these camps if they're not shutting it down or at least reverse engineering and sending people back out from whence they came? So it's the mood, the tenor, the tone is actually that of agitation, and people are frustrated in Panama at the moment. There seems to be a little bit of I don't want to say a soft coup because that would be premature, but people are definitely gunning for President Molino, who stands with President Trump. And as we've always said, Latin America really leans into America. They lean into our freedom and our ideology. And of course, they're definitely more of a Christian, combination of countries down there. So they are feeling the threat of communism and they don't like it. And so Molino is leaning into Trump, and it looks like they've come to some sort of an accord on how we're going to, transfer, I don't want to say full control, but possibly, the Panama Canal, which is critical to our national security and, of course, our supply chains. So it's spicy and it's dicey, and it's going to get a lot more of that. So that's one of the reasons I need to head back down there, because I think Michael may or may not have to pull up. And if he does, I'll be down there to cover.
Well, and you've been dealing with the border and some of those topics, and so in our prep for today, we come across this thing called Operation Burning Edge. What is this operation? Tell us about it.
Sure. Michael and I started this a couple of years ago down in South Texas. We decided we were going to drive. I rented what we called the Palace. It was an RV, one of those Winnebagos. And we were going to drive it from Texas to California and do the entire border. Well, we never got out of Texas because we started in Brownsville down by Boca Chica, where SpaceX blasts off on the beach. And day one, we saw lots and lots of evidence of human trafficking, drug trafficking, and shockingly so, our Customs and Border Protection witnessed to it all and facilitating a lot of it. We encountered Catholic Charities and other NGOs down there facilitating the child trafficking with Middle Eastern men and small children at 3 a.m. in state-run parks. That when we entered to monitor the situation, Catholic Charities was calling the police on us. So it became such a contentious situation. We said, we're never going to get out of Texas. And we spent a good month there. And then we decided to move down to Panama, where Michael has spent a lot of time. He started heading down there right after Joe Biden commandeered the White House in 2021, because he saw that the Darien Gap was going to be instrumental into the illegal, the flow of illegals into America. So I've made about 6 trips down there myself. Michael has made far more than that, probably an order of 4 to 5 times that many trips. And he's been down there for months at a time. He's a real resource on this. But at the end of the day, Burning Edge was to bring attention to this. We brought attention to the colonias in Texas, for which we know, Amy Meck's done some great reporting. Brigitte Gabriel's done some reporting on these Islamic colonias. We also have illegal alien colonias of the, Latin American descent. And they're full and ripe with, people that are very dangerous. So we've exposed the people that have actually funded the colonias and funded the politicians like Greg Abbott for $1.5 million, and Morgan Luttrell, brother of Marcus Luttrell, $17,400 in political donations to look the other way. And we've exposed all of this and forced Abbott to actually do something. And sadly, guys, you know the law. I know you do, Clements. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, any one of these 50 states in the last 4 years prior to Trump could have stood on that and just started deporting people, but none of them did.
Yeah.
Stunts, political stunts sitting in a Martha's Vineyard. I mean, come on, that was just bad taste.
Give us an insight on, obviously you went to the border before the inauguration. What is the biggest difference between the border as you see it now? Because it seems like we've gotten greater security. At least Trump is telling people, look, we've secured the border. Is that 100% true? And then there's a larger question on the cartels, which, while we're seeing massive deportation of these terrorist groups, obviously you've got a wish list. I mean, if you've been dealing with this for the past few years, what needs to be done? So two-part question. Just give us an update based on your work, how it feels in March of 2025 versus 6 months ago. And 2, where are the weak spots that Trump needs to take care of right away?
Sure. So, that's a double-edged sword question when it comes to an answer, because one answer is going to say, I'm sort of capitulating to the status quo of Joe Biden offered asylum to all of these illegals and shelved Title 42. So frankly, they should never have gotten rid of that. We should have had remain in Mexico as the policy, but instead we offered asylum and of course dipped into our Social Security and started paying these people $2,200 a month, which of course was another enticement. And today, they are hanging their hat, which is why you have errant federal judges like Judge Boasberg, who thinks that he can turn a plane around midair with a bunch of criminals that broke the law when they came in the country. Let's face it, Article 4, Section 4, Joe Biden allowed it. He should have sent the military to defend the border, but he didn't. And these criminals came in and they were offered asylum and money. And they're, running around taking over apartment complexes and raping our women and children. So my wish list is that we continue to be very, very, very aggressive with the roundups, that we deputize sheriffs, that sheriffs are allowed to deputize former law enforcement and or former military in the community, and those that, can show proficiency with law and order to help round up these people that are scattered throughout our country, and they should just be removed. We should not have to go through the process of adjudication, because that is what, in fact, is causing a big holdup, gentlemen, is that we do not have enough judges that will stand on the Constitution. And mind you, these judges don't have to be bar card carriers. They don't have to be part of that bar card mafia, as I call them. They can be individuals that will look at the law and determine whether or not this person should have legal asylum here or not, based on their circumstances. Frankly, I don't think they should have any legal asylum because they didn't come through the proper channels. They didn't come through a Customs and Border Patrol checkpoint. And that's how you claim asylum. You don't walk across the Rio Grande in the middle of the night, smuggling in drugs and children for sex trade. So I think that we need to dispense with that whole process personally and just put everybody packing. And I know people like Eric Prince have offered to do it for what I consider to be $2,500 a head is fairly reasonable. It's a lot cheaper than what we're dealing with today.
I mean, I'd go get my pilot's license again, and I would fly for $2,500 a piece. I'd load them up, push them out with a parachute, and here's I have to bring this up. You talk about trafficking of women and children. What was it? Was it May of last year? I went to Guatemala and met with the Attorney General of Guatemala. Met with them about a report that was delivered to Ken Paxton in Texas. It talks about the trafficking of women and children through Texas from Guatemala. And in the middle of all this, Blinken and Samantha Power got involved, and they've done this thing where they've sanctioned the AG to the benefit of the president of Guatemala, who is the president and the founder of a thing called the Semilla Party, which was 100% funded by George Soros. So one of the problems that I think we have is that while we are getting to the bottom of, closing the barriers here in the United States, there's still a lot of narrative left from Blinken and Samantha Power and all of the old regime that is allowing some of this rot that we experience inside of our DOJ to extend itself all the way into partner nations in the South and in Central America. So we haven't gotten to those problems yet. And in this case, there's video of Save the Children, US-based NGO, a video of a Save the Children director taking 2 children from an indigent mom, handing them the equivalent of $30. And then those children have disappeared when they came to the United States.
Well, and you brought up Samantha Power. So folks that aren't familiar, if this is the same one that's behind the USAID stuff, everything that Ann talked about with Catholic Charities.
She's CIA, for sure, 100%.
Just the funding apparatus alone. And then when you combine that with Internews, it's not just the 6,200 journalists. It's not just the 707 media organizations that are peddling and creating consensus, because that's really what we're talking about, is that they have such a monopoly, or they did, on information and just creating this idea that these agencies are good, when in fact it's the exact opposite. They are basically responsible for the trafficking epidemic. Switching gears with you, what's your take on what you're seeing? You mentioned the flight that was turned around by.
It wasn't turned around.
Well, no, they
It wasn't.
Well, they ordered it to be turned around. And this is Judge Boasberg.
Right.
He's like,
what is your take on what's going on with the judges here? Because you've got injunction after injunction that's being filed. Who do you think is going to blink first?
I don't think the Supreme Court is. I think the Supreme Court's going to do the right thing in this instance. I mean, frankly, let's look at much confidence. Sorry, I don't have it. I know. But you know what? Let's look historically. Let's go back through history. And I was just talking about this on somebody's radio show yesterday. I think it was One America, or God, I can't remember. Anyway, look at history, right? So let's talk about the transference of presidential power when Jefferson, was coming into presidency in 1803. He was stepping into the ring, and we had this sort of push for exactly what we see happening today. They were trying to create more Federalist judges that could ride the circuit and basically usurp the power of our common law, our highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. And so the Judicial Act of 1801, reduced the Supreme Court justices from 6 to 5, but increased the Federal Circuit Court judges. When Jefferson came in, that flipped. We then increased the Supreme Court justice back to 6, and we reduced the Federal Circuit Court judges so that they could no longer ride the circuit, basically usurp. They were trying to usurp the power of the highest court in the land. And then, of course, Marbury versus Madison happened in 1803. And to this day, we are still trying, just like with the 14th Amendment. Gentlemen, I just put a quick piece up on X this afternoon about the 14th Amendment and how they weaponized that to steal our sovereignty. They put us underneath the government. Whether people want to believe it or not, you got to look at it. The facts are all there. Go to the congressional records. I put all the receipts in this video. So I think that if we look back at history, we can say, look, we return power back to the common law courts. These federal circuit court judges are not acting constitutionally. In fact, just because they get an appointment for life doesn't mean they get to stay there for life. If they are warring against the Constitution, which is what Judge Boasberg is doing, Judge Merchant was doing, Judge Reyes is doing, when you are warring against the Constitution, you no longer get the immunity, the protection of an appointment for life, because why? You're warring against we the people. You're not upholding your constitutional, protections for us. And so I do think the Supreme Court, when they look at it through that lens, if I could be in the court somewhere like a little birdie whispering in their ears, perhaps Mr. Clements can get there. I think that would be the way that you could sort of get them to kind of come to heel and go, this is out of control.
Well, one of the things that's misunderstood by a lot of folks is that they'll apply the high crimes and misdemeanors to the judiciary, and that's not the case. They serve under good behavior, which is this very amorphous standard. So the whole point was for if we the people don't like the way that the judges are acting, they do not get to be enshrined with this protection that cannot be pierced. And I know that Justice Roberts, I think that's the reason why Joe's laughing, is because Roberts basically was providing cover. And so you're sitting there counting, which justices are going to come out in our favor. And so I think Gorsuch, Alito, Kavanaugh is solid. Coney Barrett's, you can't rely on a vote coming from her. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Supreme Court is going to limit the power of the judiciary. And I think that's where the skepticism comes from. One of the things that law schools teach very, very incorrectly is that these are co-equal branches. And the judiciary was never meant to be considered a co-equal branch with the executive and the legislative branch. In fact, the legislature is supposed to be the most powerful. It's the 800-pound gorilla, as Scalia pointed out. And they had the power of the purse. And the executive had the sword, and the judiciary had nothing. So Marbury v. Madison was actually one of the worst cases when it comes to, and it's not taught that way. It's taught like this great thing for judicial review. It's a terrible case for the Republic.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Anne, quickly, you put something out. I want to read this because this is an X post that you put out. And if you could go down a little bit so I can see it. There we go. And this is the robes are the regime, how judges are hijacking the presidency. Ask yourself this. If judges can block executive orders, decide who runs for president, spy on political campaigns, and protect foreign radicals, are they still interpreting the law? Or are they now writing it? We are never meant to be ruled by unelected lifetime bureaucrats in robes, but today we are. From Judge James Boasberg's FISA court enabling illegal surveillance of Trump, to federal judges blocking the deportation of Mohammed Khalil, a pro-Hamas foreign national who incites unrest on U.S. soil, or judiciary is no longer a safeguard. It's a weapon. Trump never got a fair shake in court. His political allies have been persecuted. His executive orders undermined. He even faced disqualification from the ballot based not on conviction, but on political accusation. If courts are now kingmakers, we have no republic. If judges can defy the will of the people without consequence, we are ruled, not represented. Let's fix that. Term limits for federal judges, state nullification for unconstitutional rulings, full audits of judicial decisions tied to political cases, end lifetime appointments. The judiciary was meant to interpret the law, not run the country. Wake up, America. The robes have overstepped. And I'm going to tell you something. I've been talking about I have been talking about the fact that our judiciary is rotted to the core, and they've been doing this to poor people for a long time. They've been doing this in the inner cities. There is no accountability. This is where I think 90% of the people that understand or had to deal with a judge understand how just innately corrupt and disgusting the judges in this country are. And I'm not talking about 20%. I'm talking about 70, 80%. It's a majority rule that the judges are that bad because they are never held to an account. They could have a bad ruling. It could cost you your entire savings. You could go broke, go bankrupt. And the judge was completely wrong, and you have no recourse. None. Zero. they can do whatever they want, which means we are a country of slaves, not of represented people.
You're right. Look at the family law courts, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
CPS is a $60 billion, an $80 billion a year industry. Divorce is $60 billion a year industry. When you walk into a family law court, is there a jury of your peers? Dave
No.
Clements? No. Joe, no. There's no, it's you, the judge. Perhaps you have a public defender, or if you can bring an attorney, but they have the state's attorney versus you. And there's their little club. It's a little club and you ain't in it, because they're all profiting off the system, including the social worker, including the CPS, the foster care, whoever it is that's in the mix, because your child got taken away. And, nothing was more glaring to me about how obscene all of this is than when I spent 10 weeks in Western North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. And I covered the story of the personal tragedies of everyone losing their property and everything. But then when you start talking to the families who not only lost their house, their car, their clothes, their birth certificates, everything except what was on their person before they got out with their lives, they had CPS coming and knocking on their tent or knocking on their hotel door saying, this is an unsuitable environment for your child. We're taking your child. Or because
that happened. That happened.
It totally happens. Happens, plural, many times. And instead of offering the family $4,500 a month to rent a house or an apartment and put a roof over their head, they'll be happy to pay $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month per one child. So if you have a family with multiple children, let's say it's two, that's $10,000 to $12,000 a month, and they could have put the whole family in a house for less than half of that. But they would much rather be like vipers and just punish the family and suck all the blood out like parasites and spread all the money around. And let's be clear on this. I don't care if it's DSS or DCF or CPS in your state, whatever the three-letter acronym is, the money that flows out of Title IV funding from the federal government is what is driving this. And they may say this money is to help with a variety of different, initiatives to keep the family together. Take it to the bank. It's doing nothing to keep the family together. It's doing everything to drive a wedge and pull those children out of there. And listen, just to put the cherry on top here and how bad this is, believe it or not, Mike Pompeo, when he was Secretary of State in 2019, because every year the Department of State puts a trafficking in persons report out, his trafficking in persons report for that year at the Secretary of State's office fingered out number one place for where child traffickers prey: foster care in the United States. How about that?
One of the things that is encouraging, despite all this bad news, because everything you're talking about is basically it's a cancer it's an outgrowth of the administrative state, where you've got all of these little fiefdoms. And last summer we had the bombshell ruling where Chevron deference went to the wayside. Might have been the most consequential ruling.
And nobody said anything about it.
But so if Trump's legal team is as capable as I think they are, they greased the skids a year ago. But there was another case called Loper, and people don't talk about this one at all. And basically what they did is they looked at the Seventh Amendment and the requirement that, yes, even in civil cases, which are administrative mostly, you're entitled to a jury trial. Right. And one of the biggest buzzsaws that anyone has had to go through is that they go before an administrative judge that's a part of the same unit as your administrative rule makers and basically your little Nazis, the rule enforcers, and they're all in the same entity. So they all have each other's back. There's no separation of power. So if you are a dad that wants parental rights, if you are someone that's going through the COVID hell at the university, everyone knows it's laughable. You don't have a chance in hell. But now this case seems to suggest that you get to have your jury. So I haven't seen this tested yet, but all of these things that the Trump administration is pushing back on, of course, we're still waiting for arrests. I can't wait till we start seeing cases that are challenging this. Like, I want my jury. I want we the people to sit over this issue dealing with the corruption that we're seeing with the family courts.
I mean, sorry, go ahead, Ann. You're the guest, so you forget what I have to say. I have nothing to say. That I just go ahead, Ann.
No, I completely agree with everything you said. The fact of the matter is, we are not represented. we are dictated to. And the sooner the American people wake up to that, the sooner we wake up to the judicial tyranny, the sooner they wake up to the fact that you're right, the power of the purse is what drives everything. But at the end of the day, it's we the people. And our Declaration of Independence is abundantly clear in my humble estimation when I read it. And it talks about the fact that if we're not happy with how things are going, we have the right, the duty to alter and abolish. This is where we are, America. We have to alter and abolish the lawless tyranny that has taken over our government, because it's just ironic when I look at these people grandstanding, and I'm going to include every single person. I don't care who your favorite rep is in Congress, but they're all grandstanding about everything that's wrong, but they're not doing anything to fix it. They always have the convenient excuse of they don't have enough votes. Well, how can you not have enough votes when Americans are screaming for the same things over and over? It's like they're not hearing us. They don't want to hear us because they're funded by a whole other group of people that is controlling the money. We're not in control of the purse. It's the globalist special interests. It's certain lobbies. It's other countries where you have dual citizenship. And there's only one country that our members of Congress are allowed to have a dual citizenship with. And I have nothing to say bad about the people of that country, but I have everything bad to say about their government in addition to ours, because they're the ruling class and they're not doing as the people are asking. And that to me is extremely problematic.
So let me bring something up about the judiciary. And I think we have to talk about this. In Washington State, someone brought this up to me. In Washington State in 2019, they had a referendum vote on an initiative that took away the ability of the state to charge $500, $600, $700, $800 for a license plate. It moved license plates down to $30 a car, period, end stop. Okay? It passed overwhelmingly with 63% of the vote. Okay? So the governor says, yeah, we're not going to enforce that. So the people made a rule. Now, 2 years later, people made a rule, and in 2020, the court found that it was unconstitutional for the people to vote to bring down the cost of a license plate from $600, $700 average to $30, and said we're going to throw it out. Right? 2 years later, they wanted to regulate natural gas coming into the state, natural gas costs that the government was taxing on the stuff. So the people said, okay, we're going to vote on this. 67% of the people in the state of Washington said, yeah, we want to regulate costs. We want to make sure that we have fixed costs for. Court again steps in and says, I know the people have decided this is what they want, but we're throwing that out. It's also unconstitutional. So the rule that these judges operate from is that they don't have to give us any excuse for it. They don't have to tell us why they're doing something. They don't have to do what the Marie Avery Moses, the lawyer or the judge for Coomer, right? The Antifa judge that walked around with a sign saying she would burn the entire world down. That judge, they don't have to justify their position. They can just make up whatever they want. And there are zero consequences for these people. And I think the people in this country, we're just sick of it. I mean, I'm not just speaking for me, because I'll fight all the way to the end. I'll fight to my death. I don't care. But how many people can't? How many people don't have the ability to do that? You talk about fathers, and you talked about the court system related to the family court system. CPS can walk in and take your kids away, and you got to prove to them that you're a good parent. You got to prove to them you're a good father. You have entire systems that say, hey, you make $5,000 a month as a father. Well, you got to give $2,500 to your ex-wife. And I'm sorry, you only make $3,000 after taxes?
Yep. And you have to master the political speak, the jargon that's USAID created.
Yes.
So when you go into these courtrooms, the judges will routinely cite consensus and studies from all of these bought and paid for bribed organizations. And so, you talk about elections in a way that's contrary to the narrative. That's just not acceptable, Mr. Altman. You're a danger.
No question.
Tina Peters. I mean, where she was hit by Judge Matthew Barrett for exercising her First Amendment opinion that yes, even the power of the pen requires that she is incarcerated for 9 years. So you're not exaggerating. And I want you to get the last word because we've looked at a video that you put out to judicial corruption yesterday. I think we already covered this idea of you reposted a video calling for the end of nationwide injunctions. Is there anything that you just have your finger on the pulse on that you think is important? So you've got the president's ear for a day on whether it's ending the gamesmanship of these lower courts. What do you think Trump needs to do to get a hold of this and put an end to it? Because the clock is ticking. We open the show with this. By the time we get to midterm elections, either Trump's going to have another 2 years to improve things, or everything's going to fall apart. What say you?
Yeah. That is a daunting question, isn't it? Because we do know we're on the clock. But if I was going to have President Trump's ear for the day, I would certainly want him to deal with the activist judges. And I would also want him to deal with this, what I consider to be a fairly treasonous group of an intelligence community, because the intelligence community has been weaponized by the same people who've controlled our government, which is the money people. And they've been able to place these activist judges in places all over the country. Joe Biden put 253, I believe, if my memory serves me correct. It's somewhere in that ballpark before he left. And so we are dealing with, like you just gave it a great example, Joe, judges that overlook what the people want, and they're just going to do what they think is best. Well, really, it's whatever the money people say is best. But these people can operate without a very weaponized intelligence community, and nobody knows that better than General Michael Flynn. And so at this point, if we don't wipe ourselves clean from the intelligence community, I'd say take control of Five Eyes, or exit Five Eyes, exit NATO, exit the UN, exit all these supranational organizations that have nothing to do with improving lives here in America, and really focus on America First agenda by getting ourselves out of all these entanglements, which is, again, per our Constitution, we have no need to be involved in these entanglements. I think that we are forever going to be battling election integrity issues when the intelligence community, can weaponize it. And Joe, you know this very well, tangling with Coomer, tangling with the people over at Dominion. These machines just have to go. And I know President Trump's talking about it now, same day voting, paper ballots, make it so. And I really believe that, Trump's got it. Intelligence, judges, elections. And those things all are connected, whether you want to believe it or not, because these same judges are the very same judges out in, say, Arizona, that aren't looking at the statutory laws that were broken. And they're working with attorneys, for instance, that may not be bringing the right arguments in front of these judges to show you that these statutory laws are broken. Hence, you never even had an election. Setting the machines aside, just the operations of government, of the elections were corrupt. So if you didn't have a statutory functioning election, did you even have one? How can you say these electoral votes went to this person or that person? You have no idea. So, we are not following any of the rules of law in this country. And I think President Trump needs to just start drumbeating that and really hammering on that. And I know, we have a country where we're federalized, right? So it's really up to the states. But we have to pull the federal government out of the state's business and let the 10th Amendment reign supremely. And we need to, again, these activist judges need to be removed, and they can be. But again, there's your people, right? The people have to really be a lot more loud about all of this. So elections, intelligence, community, judges, those are, to me, the worst of the worst that we have to deal with right now.
Amen.
Amen. What? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, Ann, thank you for giving us an update and for just the fight that you've demonstrated over the past 4 years. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. And my sincere apologies for being tardy. Serves me right for not having an alarm set on my phone.
It's all right.
And it's
appreciate
okay.
You guys.
Joe's tardy for his own show almost every day.
Hey, I got companies. I got companies to run. I mean, look, I do a podcast 5 days a week for about 2 hours a day, and I have 200 other people that I have to inside the companies that. And David gets to spend time with me, and I know you're like saying that because you're like, holy cow!
I just like to needle Joe whenever I can, But and thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we can have you come back on the show soon.
Amazing! Thank you so much, gentlemen. Have a great night.
All right, God bless you. Yeah. Thank you,
man. Well, she's right.
She's right.
I think those three things.
And here's the thing: Anne knows a lot about the black letter law.
Mm-hmm.
She's very well versed on, kind of taking back the sovereignty of the individual. But David, we are, no matter what we do, we try to say, that's illegal, that's illegal, that's illegal. And they do it anyway. And judges get to do whatever they want. And people like Dominion and Coomer and all these people, and that's my fixation right now, is these people get to lie over and over and over. They get to lie about everything. They get to build narratives and do whatever they want and create falsities inside of the media. They're exactly what they say they're fighting against. They are that. They are the evil of our society. And yet we negotiate with it. We actually go through this debate. We debate the ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, we play into the limited hangout landscape, and perfect example, because Ann brought up a great point, which is when you realize that the elections are rigged, and that means everything that happened over a 4-year period was effectively, should have been considered null and void.
Right.
And then we'll get caught up into the AutoPen stuff, which there's legitimacy to. We should be talking about the AutoPen signatures. We should be talking about the lack of capacity. But even that takes us away from the full truth, which 2020 rigged. Biden not legitimate.
2022 rigged.
And the amount of death and destruction that came about directly and indirectly over 4 years of the worst policies known to Earth, all brought about through fraud, it just shows you that it's going to take more than just the discourse here. And I think your struggle, Joe, and my struggle is that the solution still has to be we the people. And when we look out, we don't see we the people stepping up to the plate. So absent Trump literally gifting something to us through something that's going to take military tribunals. I'm just going to say that right now, because I understand due process probably better than most people. You cannot, as fast as the pace that he's setting right now,
yeah,
you're not going to get to your mark unless you have something that is so much more efficient when it comes to due process. So when you talked about at least 500 people,
yeah,
and 100 need to start singing right now,
yeah, you're
not going to accomplish that in traditional
I bet
DOJ.
you Coomer starts singing if you pick him up.
Well, either that or he's going to pick up where he left off with that, that addiction.
DUI
of his.
or the DUI.
He's going on the harder stuff, brother. He might not make it. He may not make it.
I was talking to somebody and they go, Joe, how do you defame someone that defames themselves just by actions?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Easy, I guess.
Yep. Well, hey, look, right now, Trump has set the board. The information's coming in. You've got X allowing a greater proliferation of truth. But when we talked about this yesterday, you weren't on with me yesterday, but I had Chris on, and we just talked about it. Until we see that first arrest and a conviction, it's hard to not feel like we're still in the same holding pattern.
No question. Can we talk about something really what I actually like winning?
Sure.
There's a guy that his name is Jim Pellis. And Jim decided that he wanted to key a car. So I put up this post. He's employed by a company called Code Armor. And he was caught keying a Cybertruck at a ski resort. Go ahead, put it up if we can. He's now facing this retard's now facing a Class A felony. Okay. I want everybody to share it. Here's this guy, Jim Pellis. If you have LinkedIn, I think you should visit Mr. Pellis, because everyone else did. Every post, he finally decided that I'm in big trouble. And but go down. But there's a video. So this is Mr. Jim Pellis. He's a regional sales director. He's kind of a weenie. Do we have the video for this? So here's the original one. Here's the original one. Let me read it because you go down a little bit. Okay. Our Tesla Cybertruck was vandalized this weekend in New Hampshire. While staying at our hotel, our vehicle was keyed within an hour of arriving. Jim Pellis, and Chuck Smith. You know what? It's got to be healthy for somebody to be named Chuck Smith. because it took a while for me to find that person. But he's not the one that did the work. Either didn't know or didn't care that they were being recorded. Charges pending Class A felony in New Hampshire. Go to the bottom right video. Can we play that one? The bottom right video. This is epic. So this is the first one you can start seeing that he goes into his pocket. Oh, never mind. You're going to have to put the top one, make it the full video. But the police are actually, here we go. This is funny.
No. Okay. Can I see some ID, please? Yeah. You as well, sir. So, you want to talk about what happened here? Yeah. No. Okay. I don't know what happened. You didn't see that Tesla? No. Okay. Well, we have one. Okay. Okay.
We have you on video.
Okay.
He douchebag.
How quickly? Okay, I guess you got me. Oh man.
It crushes my soul. But it's awesome at the same time. Now, because they keep doing it, I want you to now, so let's put up, is it cut to that is the video? Is it cut to? Yeah. Is that the same video or is it a different one? This guy says he'll only buy a Tesla because I remember this. This was yesterday. Yeah, this was awesome. This guy's in the military 20 years. He goes with his wife, but you got to check out the wife part at the very end. It's like the best part. Let's go ahead and play this video. He's like, "You all suck."
You're feeling hurt. You're being emotional. Calm down.
Nazi! So fuck you all!
Oh, he comes back. He comes back.
Just got him doing the Nazi.
He's not done.
On cameras. That's oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Only here buying your Tesla because of you people. No common sense. It's a great price. Get back. Really good. I'm really tough. 20 years in the military. 20 years.
And you should know that.
I love it. He's eating them alive.
What bizarro world are we in where all of the radical environmentalists are now destroying the most environmentally friendly vehicle, and then conservatives that have typically loathed anything electric?
Not me.
I know, but you've always
Not me, baby. Come on.
You drink coffee drinks with some flavoring that is not. It's I don't want to go there right now, but
well, speaking of drinking, Apollo, can you find my video with the Neil Bishop I did yesterday? No? Okay, never mind. I was told no. I was just told no. If you didn't see it, it's really nice. This little client. So Sharona's husband, okay, I'm not gonna do
don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's enough.
It's not America's mom. It's America's bomb. Like bum. Okay, here we go. You have to wonder if why all these threats are happening, but I want to talk about this. What's her name? Jasmine Crockett makes these threats, and Pam Bondi responds because there are bombs that were placed at a Tesla station in Austin within hours of it. Let's go ahead and play this.
Yeah, Sean, it is. And after she said that about Elon, she said, well, I didn't mean violence. But, however, your words have consequences. And what happened after she said that about Elon Musk, she's a Texan in her own home state. After she said that, this morning, 3 explosive devices were found in Austin, Texas. So she needs to unequivocally denounce the violence. She must apologize immediately, not only to all Texans, but to our country, to the American shareholders of Tesla, because she is promoting violence. And then you showed the clip of what she said about Senator Cruz. I believe she probably will be censured by Congress for saying that. You know, people don't learn. She's using her public persona, her public platform to increase her followers, to increase her significance, and she is threatening lives, safety. You know, when she did this at Tesla, Sean, people's lives are in danger. This is America. We're in a free country, and she's yet encouraging this violence in our country. Think of all the lives that could have been jeopardized in Texas just today by her words and what she's done. But she didn't stop with that. She continued on with Senator Cruz. She has to apologize immediately and denounce the violence.
No, I think she should be arrested.
Yeah. You know, look, Pam, you know, Trump gave you a vote of confidence, but there's a lot of chatter on X about the number of appearances
67
on Fox, but no, or I mean, I take 67 arrests and maybe
I'd
one
take 10.
appearance, something like that.
5, just one actually. There's really one that I want right now.
So we're here. We're going to chant, lock her up, lock her up. This is Crockett, but that's not it, right?
Yeah, let's play this. This is happened afterwards. This is yeah, she asked a question and then she basically is just a violent, ugly person. She's probably the most ugly, vile person I've ever met. And that double butt she's got going just is not working. Let's go ahead and play it.
Hello, Congresswoman.
Horse manure. Well, that sounds like fun.
Wait, Congresswoman Crockett.
But it sounds.
Congresswoman Crockett, you were recently on a Tesla takedown call calling for violence on the 29th. Would you like to clarify your comments?
As you can see.
Congresswoman, will you condone violence at the Tesla?
Arrest her.
Yeah.
You grab my phone. Let me tell you something.
That's battery. The touching. It's offensive. You don't get to do that.
Enrique Tario he just hit the phone out of her hand. She reached and grabbed it.
Yeah.
Okay, but just so you know, someone has figured out how to stop people from keying their vehicles.
Okay, who's that?
You want to see it?
Sure.
All right, let's play it. For those of you on the audio version, if you're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more, I want you to know that you too can be driving around in a cyber beast that says Toyota on the back of it. You think it fooled anyone? Maybe.
No, there was another one that did Honda, and it looked far more convincing because
the Honda Civic.
Yeah, because the Cybertrucks are so iconic in the way that they look.
Thank you. I want to say thank you for saying that.
Jeez. Do
you want to tell everyone?
I want to tell everyone this, that having, I've rode in a vehicle with you many times. I've always been uncomfortable about a robot driving a car, but I will take a robot driving a car over Joe Altman.
That's not even fair. What are you talking about?
I need to do an endorsement video for Tesla and just thank you for saving my life because I've been in a car with Joe.
So hold on a second. For those of you who don't know, David and I spent a couple days and we just drove around a little bit and we were in the Cyber Beast. And David was uncomfortable because of the sheer velocity of the Cyber Beast.
Yeah, because I have a brain. I can process danger. I mean, we went through like 2 red lights today alone.
I don't even know what you're talking about. There's only one red light from here. No, that's right. I did it this morning too. Didn't I?
You did.
Oh,
like
man.
it's just he just likes to see me in pain.
No. Let's get this straight, just so we understand fully. I want you to understand that I was trying to make sure that if there was anybody following us, they couldn't get through the light.
Yeah. He's saving my life by endangering it. That's interesting. Hey,
Situational awareness.
we got a little plug here. I know a few days ago, or maybe a few weeks ago, we started seeing free Tina stickers.
What?
Right? And I understand that right now you can order your own.
Can you put it up?
Free Tina stickers. I don't know if we have that, but honor bound, right?
Yeah, no, this is great, David. Keep going. Sorry. There's a hat too and a free Tina t-shirt.
So folks that want to show their support, you can order stickers, you can order shirts, and then we got another
No, hold on. This is the best part.
Okay.
These are 10 packs. We don't want to just we want you to go to gas stations and not deface the pumps, but if they cause themselves to be on the pumps, it would be nice. But
stick is going to stick, Joe.
The stick is going to stick. the free Tina Peters, they're good stickers though. These are the good sticky type. Free Tina Peters, and it has tinapeters.us, which is the place you can go in order to donate to Tina Peters. You can buy a 10-pack for $20.
And then one more announcement, because we still have a bunch. We gave away Let My People Go.
Oh, yeah.
We gave it away. But we still have an inventory of physical DVDs and physical Blu-rays. We're not going to charge for them, but if you've got the shipping and handling, we got a movie for you. So
it's free. You get the DVD.
Just pay for shipping and handling and DVD. Buy them in bulk. Do whatever you want. Okay.
Will you sign the DVD?
I'll sign them.
David will sign the DVDs. Send you a DVD. We have some DVDs left, so I think it's like $8 or whatever for shipping, but we can ship you some DVDs so you have it.
That'd be great.
You got to get your hat too. I got to get you a hat.
Yeah, but I'm going with the fire version. I'm coming.
Yeah.
But I'm coming sneaky.
That's right. So we don't have this yet, but David, so I'm like the cool as ice. And
I think we got it all backwards.
It depends on what day. All right. So let me just be really clear. Just so we're clear here. David did the Fu Manchu punch with a guy. Can I talk? You're not going to get arrested at this point, right? Can I talk about it? Can I sell your reputation?
I think I'm past the statute of limitations in New York City.
So just so you know, we're at a Freemasons convention that we walked in on by accident, or they came in after us.
No, it wasn't a convention. Good Lord, Joe. But
there was a lot of them.
We were in New York City. You had a visit with the mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we go out and we're going to go get a drink. And have a bourbon.
Yes.
And we see all these people wearing their Freemason aprons and white glove stuff. They look like they've got girlfriends that they're paying for. We go to a place.
They were.
They were paying for their women.
Yeah.
And
sorry, women.
So we ended up going to a pub, and this happened to be the same place where all these other folks were gathering, and stuff happened.
Yeah, so this guy walked up and he was just mouthing off to David, and I was like, man, this is going to end badly. He's like, meh, 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 meh. And then he called David Karl Marx. And that was it. It's all it took. David shot up and did the 2-finger right in the chest, boop, popped him, and the guy fell back, whacked his. I thought he died. I mean, David, I thought he died. You had the power of Jesus in those fingers. You pushed him back. All you hear is thud.
I did think he died.
Yeah.
He was slumped down. All I know is that this shows you how sick Joe is. He looked so ecstatic because he thought that we were going to brawl.
I thought for sure. I was like, man, this is going to be great.
A record, you could have heard a record scratch, like the whole bar stopped. And Joe and I both have a lot of pent up anger over not having an outlet for all the crap that we deal with. I'm telling you, there's about 20 of these finance bank Freemasons. And I'm telling you right now, between Joe and I, we would have destroyed every one of them. We were ready to rip heads off his shoulders. So the Holy Spirit was strong in these fingers.
Just, it only took, and I think the one guy actually saw that it was just 2 fingers. And all I kept saying is, oh, this is going to be fun. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, who's next? I kept looking around like.
It was not my finest moment.
No.
but it happened. So
See, I just want you to know that this reminds me of another event that we had where we were in Arizona and we were going to speak to the county commissioners?
The board of supervisors.
Board of supervisors.
Yeah.
Board of supervisors. And before I got up, I was like, David, I'm not in a good place, bro. I am not in a good place. And he's like, why? What's wrong? And I was like, man, I'm like really angry. And typically when I'm angry, I'll just send David a text. And I'll be like, this is what's happening. David's like, let's pray. Or he'll say, I'm with you. And if he says, I'm with you, then I'm like, crap. I don't want to bring him any further. So then you have this thing where it's like yin and yang. But this time he's like, I'm going to pray for you. So we're in the car. We're getting ready to head down to the board of supervisors to speak. And David prays. I get calmer than a cucumber. I go up and I just talk about representation. We should have representation as people. We should be able to have conversations about what's happening in our election systems. I laid out my case in 2 minutes, and then I said, thank you, and I sat down. David stands up and said, David Clements, slave. And I'm like, what the heck? What just happened? Like, I'm calm, ready to go. I'm in the, and he's ready to tear these people's heads off.
Yeah, every once in a while, I am a father. You're a father, but
yeah, sometimes
the dad that needs to scold the children comes out, and I had my fill. I couldn't take it anymore. And there's something about that finger. Like people laugh about the finger. If you've got children, you've ever had to discipline a young man, there's always the chest thump. I always got the chest thump from my dad.
Yeah.
So when I have 3 fingers, there's some power there. But yeah, no, that was an iconic, like that was the first time you and I had been in a room though with Bill Gates.
Yeah.
And Stephen Richer and these
bad
criminals.
People, really bad people.
So I wasn't counting on my blood boiling, but there was a little bit of a divine transfer of anger. And what are you going to do?
You're going to do what you did. It worked out pretty well. All right, so we're going to round out the show today by talking about Ukraine and the gay midget. Okay, we're not going to talk about the midget very much. We're just going to do an update of what's going on because there are some peace talks that are still ongoing in Ukraine. But it's continuing to be pretty combative. And they had talks in Riyadh, and they had 12 hours of discussions on different topics. The new Russian borders were discussed, meaning that Ukraine's going to have to give up some space. And there's something that was launched today. So let's go ahead and go to this if we can. This is just a cut of the talks happening in Saudi Arabia. That sound is water.
"12 hours of discussions
in Riyadh." Have you ever been to Riyadh? You ever been to Saudi Arabia?
Dude, I've never been outside of the United States.
Are you serious?
I am not. I'm so freaking American.
That doesn't. Okay, I'm not. So I've been to Riyadh. I've been to Jeddah and the Dammam. Dammam is there's a causeway that goes from Dammam, Saudi Arabia, into Bahrain, which is kind of the financial sector of the region. Okay, so here's what we do know in regards to Ukraine and Russia agreement. Let's go ahead and play this if we can.
Well, there's a post, right? So let me read it.
It's just a post? I thought it was a video.
Is this going to take us to Kyle Becker?
It's Becker.
Yeah, so he said, this is a big deal. United States, Russia, and Ukraine have come to major agreements that pave the way for peace in line with presidential level discussions between President Donald Trump and President Zelensky. The United States facilitated bilateral technical level talks with the Ukrainian delegation. And in those discussions, United States and Ukraine have agreed to ensure safe navigation, eliminate the use of force, and prevent the use of commercial vessels for military purposes in the Black Sea. They've also agreed that the United States remains committed to helping achieve the exchange of prisoners of war, the release of civilian detainees, and the return of forcibly transferred Ukrainian children. U.S. and Ukraine agreed to develop measures for implementing President Trump's and Zelensky's agreement to ban strikes against energy facilities of Russia and Ukraine. And they're also welcome the good offices of third countries with a view towards supporting the implementation of the energy and maritime agreements, whatever that means. So a lot of developments. It's hard to make much of this because I'm so like, I just don't get Zelensky. So while this looks like it's good, it really comes down to where do you stand on whether.
Bro, less than 15% of Ukraine supports Zelensky. Less than 15%. And those are the 15% that are just getting money of the grift of the United States.
Yeah.
So, I mean, other than that, he is an overwhelmingly unpopular person. And when they hold an election, which is why he's holding on to the war part, when they hold an election, he would be stupid to even run because it will show you 95-5 just how bad Zelensky is. Now, unless they use Dominion voting systems,
I was going to say
which
that.
I mean, you could send over. It's really close to Serbia. I mean,
they might need a new market after these executive orders go into effect. So,
how many people do you think are being arrested? I don't think that everyone understands just how much information they don't think we know.
Well, Trump did say, we played the video. He says, more is coming in the next few weeks. And Liz Harrington just reposted that same video. She's been amazing.
She's an amazing person.
So look, today,
hey, Mermaid, let's get Liz Harrington on, please.
It was
I want to get her on.
Great day today. And I pray, Joe, that I know you've been a teetotaler for a while now. I do miss my bourbon buddy, but we will toast. We will toast the arrest. It's going to happen. It has to happen.
Yeah, I haven't been drinking in nearly 6 months.
Yep.
It's crazy. I kind of feel like
you've let me down, but
I feel sharper than I've ever felt though.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm thrilled, really.
Are you? Are you though?
Well, I like my bourbon.
Yeah.
So, so we're going to celebrate. We'll get you some seltzer water. We'll get you
whatever.
Your frou-frou
right?
bros drinks.
I said I would not have a drink until Tina was out. So when she gets out, I'll have a drink.
Okay.
Celebratory drink for sure. And then when certain people get arrested, which is coming, the gaslighting is about to end.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest parts about all the stuff that we're kind of going through right now, one of the greatest parts about all of it is that no matter how much they push against a fake narrative and they lie, I know for a fact that it's coming. The storm is coming in a way that I just can't. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Really excited.
Well, great show. Great being in studio. I think I got another one of these in me before the week's out.
Tomorrow?
Yeah. And, but it's been a while. So I'm going to say a little prayer.
Oh, man, we wouldn't do some dua. Dua is Arabic for prayer. Dua.
Yeah. So here we go. Dear Lord, we thank you for the blessings of victory. We'll take every victory we can get. We just pray that, Lord, you would fully expose the corruption that's there, and that this would not be low-level justice where low-level players are exposed and arrested, but that you would basically drive the spear through the upper echelon of corruption, whether it's elections, whether it's intelligence agencies, whether it's the judiciary. We pray that you would just do a great work and see it through. Simultaneously, Lord, we pray for the American people that they would find their courage to do their part. This cannot be about one man or one administration, but Lord, we just pray that you would give out your Holy Spirit in abundance, that people would see the call in their lives to enter into places that may be dangerous for their reputation, their businesses, as trucks are being keyed, that people would just be fed up and say, enough is enough. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord, we just ask that you bring this all about to its perfect crescendo, and that justice would reign. And we ask this in your most holy name, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, so join us. First of all, hit the share button. Be ambassadors of truth. We did move, David, from 0.5% of global podcast to 0.1%. Moving on up to the east side. So I want to say thank you to everyone for sharing us. If you're on the audio version, leave us a 5-star review. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. We got some comments. Let me read a couple of these comments right here. Great show, guys, from Tokyo Drone. Oh, what else we got here? Breaking, apparently it was NSA Mike Waltz, but his deputy Alex Wong, who created a signal chat group to discuss the operation against the Houthis. Well, I want to say that Alex Wong is so Wong, and he is going to be gone Wong time. He should be gone. I had 3 work calls on here. Oh my gosh, what a day. Awesome, Gammy. Good to see you. Amen. Amen. Thanks, guys. S.A. Lion, LOL. I don't have anything else you guys want to talk about. Is David in Colorado? Would be amazing to meet the crew. Tokyo Drone, are you in Colorado? Go ahead and answer that for us, if you would. Is there anything else you want to?
Hey, if you're here in town, we are up for
come say hi.
Yeah.
And we just had a coffee. We got Bros Coffee.
We'll bring you
got some Bros Coffee
in studio. If you want.
We'll bring you in studio. Yes, we'll bring you in studio. Have some Bros Coffee. It's just Bros. It's just Bros. It is Black Line Bros. Just Bros Coffee. Just 2 bros having coffee. And bro, it's good to see you.
It's good seeing you.
All right. God bless you all. Listen, we remember, you are the ambassadors of truth. This keeps creeping up on me. I feel like I'm eating it.
That's what she said.
Oh, geez. This is killing me. All right. Hey, we'll see you guys later.
All right.
God bless you. And yeah, see you tomorrow.